It happened on an ordinary Thursday afternoon, the kind of day that begins with no hint of what it will become. The sky hung low with soft gray clouds, and the faint smell of rain clung to the air. I remember the cool hum of the grocery store's air conditioning brushing against my arms as I pushed the cart through the aisles. The floor gleamed like it had just been cleaned, and somewhere down the bakery section, someone was whistling. I had only stopped by to grab a few things: milk, cereal, apples, simple groceries that marked the rhythm of everyday life. My son, Liam, walked beside me, earbuds tucked in, eyes fixed on his phone. He was 16 at that tender age when the world outside home seemed far more interesting than anything I could say. He didn't notice when I reached out for his hand to steady myself near the freezer section. He was too busy scrolling, too lost in his own small universe. And then it happened. A small puddle of melted ice cream near the dairy aisle. A single careless step. My foot slipped forward, the cart rolled away, and before I could catch myself, I hit the floor. The sound of my fall echoed, a dull, heavy thud that seemed louder than it should have been. My palms burned, my knees stung, and for a moment I just sat there, stunned, embarrassed, blinking under the harsh fluorescent lights. I heard it then, my son's laugh, a short, sharp sound. Startled amusement, the kind of laugh that comes from instinct, not cruelty. But it sliced through me all the same. He stood there, phone still in hand, shaking his head with a grin. "Mom, that was—" "Wow," he said under his breath, trying to hold back another chuckle. People turned to look. A few smiled awkwardly. I wanted to disappear and melt right into that shiny floor. My face burned as I tried to pull myself up, but the pain in my knee made me wince. Before I could say anything, I felt a hand, steady, warm, and gentle, reaching down to help me. "Are you all right, ma'am?" The voice asked. It was a man's voice, calm and kind, with the tone of someone used to helping without hesitation. I looked up. He was in his mid-30s, wearing a light gray jacket, his expression soft but familiar. For a moment, I thought maybe he worked there, but there was something in his eyes, a flicker of recognition. "I think so," I murmured, gripping his hand as he helped me to my feet. My knee throbbed, but I managed a weak smile, and then he said it. "Liam?" My son froze. His laughter vanished, replaced by a look I hadn't seen before, a mix of shock and discomfort. The stranger turned his gaze from me to him. "It's been a long time," he said quietly. I looked from one to the other, confusion flooding my mind. "You two know each other?" I asked. Liam's face went pale. "Yeah," he said after a pause, his voice barely above a whisper. That's Mr. Collins." The name took a second to land. And then I remembered. 2 years ago, a teacher from Liam's old school, one who left unexpectedly mid-year after something happened on campus. I never knew the full story, only that Liam had stopped talking about him entirely. I had assumed it was just another teenage phase, another adult he'd grown tired of. But now, watching them face each other in that aisle, I realized there was something unspoken between them, something heavy. Mr. Collins smiled faintly. "You've grown," he said, his tone gentle but edged with meaning. "Still got that laugh, huh?" Liam looked down, his fingers tightening around his phone. "Yeah," he muttered, no trace of humor left. The silence that followed was uncomfortable, almost physical. I felt it pressing on my chest. Mr. Collins turned to me. "He's a good kid," he said softly. "He just forgets sometimes what kindness looks like." And then, without waiting for a reply, he nodded politely and walked away, just as quietly as he had appeared. His footsteps faded into the next aisle. Liam and I stood there for a long moment. He avoided my eyes, pretending to check something on his phone, but I could see the tremor in his hands. The rest of our shopping was silent, the kind of silence that fills a space not with peace, but with thought. That night, as the house settled into its usual stillness, I sat at the kitchen table with a mug of chamomile tea. The same sound of the grocery store freezer still echoed faintly in my mind, the thud of my fall, the scrape of my palms, the stranger's calm voice saying my son's name. Liam came downstairs eventually, barefoot, his hair tousled. He stood in the doorway for a moment, unsure of what to say. "Mom," he began, I didn't mean to laugh. I know," I said gently, not looking up from my tea. "But it still hurt," he nodded. Then, after a long pause, he said, "Mr. Collins used to say something in class. He said people show who they are when no one's watching. I guess I showed him who I am today. I set my cup down." "Maybe," I said softly. "Or maybe you showed him who you were. There's still time to show who you're becoming." He didn't reply, but he walked over, pulled out the chair across from me, and sat down. For the first time in months, we talked. Not about school or chores or missed calls, but about real things. About what it means to care for someone. About respect. About seeing people, not just looking at them. Over the next few weeks, something shifted between us. Small things at first. He'd hold the door open for me when we went out. He'd ask how my day was, really listen when I answered. And every so often, I'd catch him in the kitchen, glancing at the ceramic mug I'd dropped that day at the grocery store. It had cracked when I fell, leaving a thin, jagged line running through the middle, a reminder of a careless moment, but also of what came after. I didn't throw it away. I couldn't. Instead, I placed it on the windowsill. Every morning, sunlight caught the fracture in just the right way, turning it into a sliver of gold. It reminded me that broken things can still be beautiful, that sometimes it's the cracks that let the light in. One evening, as Liam helped me put groceries away, the same store, same aisle, a week later, he stopped suddenly, his eyes scanning the crowd. I followed his gaze, but there was no one familiar this time. He smiled a little and said, almost to himself, "I hope he's okay." I nodded. "I think he is. We didn't talk about Mr. Collins again. We didn't need to. The moment had already done what words couldn't. It had shifted something invisible between us. Now, whenever I pass that grocery store, I still feel the faint ache in my knee. It's healed, but the memory remains, the fall, the laughter, the hand that helped me up, and sometimes, when I hear Liam laughing, the same sharp, bright sound that once stung, I hear something different in it now. Warmth, awareness, growth. It reminds me that life has a strange way of teaching us, not always gently, not always when we're ready, but precisely when we need it most. The mug still sits on the windowsill, catching light from the afternoon sun. Its crack glows gold like a small, quiet scar. Every time I see it, I think of that day, the fall that wasn't just a fall, the stranger who wasn't just a stranger, and the lesson my son didn't know he still needed to learn. And in that quiet reflection, I realized something simple, something universal. We all stumble. We all fall. But sometimes, the people who help us back up don't just lift us off the ground. They hold up a mirror, and if we're lucky, we learn to see ourselves a little more clearly in the reflection.